Today we have a story about a crazy, entitled parent who wants a private elevator just for their child. We'll get to that shortly. But first, entitled grandma takes her granddaughter and other students on a field trip to do something different. Doesn't even get back to the bus on time. This happened when I was in 5th grade, over 20 years ago. So my memory is hazy, but this is what I recall from that day. So that day, all of the 5th grade classes at my school went on a field trip to a science center in a fairly large city about an hour away from our school. My mother was one of several parent chaperones who went on the trip. There was one girl in my class who I never liked. She was not an outright bully, but she came across as arrogant and spoiled. Her grandmother also served as a chaperone. Each teacher and parent chaperone was responsible for a group of 3 or 4 children, for the chaperones. They were accompanied by their own child and 2 or 3 other children. We had a good time at the science center and then all met up on the buses when it was time to leave. My mom and I had already boarded the bus, and the teachers were still standing outside as the buses loaded. The spoiled girl, her grandmother, and the other kids in their group went missing, and no one knew where they were. I watched out the window as the teachers frantically searched for them. I can't imagine how distraught my teacher must have been, thinking he'd lost several of his students on a field trip. I'm not sure how long we all sat on the bus, wondering what was going on, but it was a while. Finally, Grandma and the kids arrived and boarded the bus. The kids were all eating fancy gourmet candy that they had not gotten from the science center. The grandmother and the children had left the science center and gone to a city mall. Obviously, it was bad enough that she took the kids and went somewhere else, especially since some of them weren't even hers, and their parents had signed permission slips for them to go only to the science center. However, she caused a delay on the buses. Again, we had at least an hour drive back to school, and I recall arriving after school had ended when the grandma and the kids boarded the bus. My mother and the other parents were shooting daggers at her, and she refused to apologize. She just laughed it off and explained that her granddaughter had wanted to go shopping. And I suppose Grandma always let the little princess have her way. My mother still talks about it years later, because she can't believe the woman's audacity and stupidity. Definitely. The issue here is the extreme risk of watching someone else's children. I mean, if any of those kids wandered away or something happened, there would be serious consequences, not only for the grandmother, but also for those who helped her get to that position. Oops, I'm sorry. You lost one of your children. My child wanted to go shopping. Individual Mango for 2 commented on not only the buses being held up, but also what if one of the children was injured or lost in the mall. What if a child experienced an allergic reaction to the candy? There's a reason why field trip rules exist, Opie replied. Exactly. Fortunately, no one was injured, but it could have ended badly. Grandma could have gotten the pantsuit offer from one of the kids' parents. Also, hello, my name is Steven, and if you enjoy crazy stories about entitled parents, please like and subscribe below. That being said, our next story is titled, Mom Hits My Car, Doesn't Exchange Information, and Runs Away. So I mailed 22 while driving last week to pick up my younger sister from school. I recently received a car as a graduation gift and pride myself on taking good care of it. So, back to the story. I was at an intersection and my light had just turned green. I move, and out of nowhere, a car on my right completely ignores the red light and hits my passenger sign. I get out of my car, shocked, and the woman, who I'd estimate to be in her early to mid-30s, begins yelling at me. She then asks loudly, "Why did you go through the red light?" I respond nervously because she appears upset. I then told her I had a green light, but she said no way. I was texting, and the light turned green just as I put down my phone. I'm trying to explain how I received the green light and then processed what she just said. Her 2 children are also yelling at me, insisting that their mother was always right. One of them, a son who I believe was about 12 or 13, got out of the car. He claimed I was at fault and that his mother did nothing wrong. I'm going to assume he was also on his phone because I had a green. She had a rat. Her daughter also exclaimed that I was in the wrong. I asked for her insurance information because I needed to calm the situation down as soon as possible. She returned to her car, as did her son, and they sped off. I realized she also didn't have any plates, so I'm not sure what I'll do. I called the cops and a tow truck, and the people who stayed behind to check on me confirmed my story to the cops. My parents are also planning to kill me because they paid a lot of money for that car. I have a job, but it doesn't pay very well per hour, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to afford some of the repairs, but thankfully it wasn't totaled. I don't want to constantly borrow one of my parents' cars, but I'm really upset that she texted while driving. We continue to try to gaslight me and see runoff without exchanging insurance information, although it's unlikely she had any because she didn't have any plates. Fortunately, I haven't had much personal experience with car insurance in a situation like this. Are you just left to your own devices, or could they help in some way? I suppose it depends on your insurance provider and policy plan, Edward Beard commented. That's known as a hit and run, and it's a crime in most places I know of. You were a victim of a reported crime. Your parents should be pleased to see you safe and eager to assist you in pursuing this goal. Our next story is that my mother has been shaming me since I got married and is now attempting to marry off my minor daughters. I can't believe I have to write a post about my mother, but here we are. My 45-year-old female mother and 71-year-old female have a strained relationship. My mother was an old-school traditional wife. She was a homemaker, never did any work outside the home, had far more children than I believe is healthy. 7 girls and 6 boys. She originally from Guatemala and moved to the United States when she was 14. She married my father here, raised her family here, and tried to instill old-school values in me and my siblings, something she completely failed at. Most of my siblings are as far away from my mother as humanly possible. Unfortunately, 2 of them passed away. I'm the only one who has stayed near to care for my parents, and since my father died, I've taken over my mother's bills so she can live comfortably. She has always been a source of stress in my marriage. She had a baby. My husband has always taken his side. I only wanted 1 child, but my husband wanted as many as biologically possible. When we discussed marriage, he told me that he too wanted only 1. My mother helped him tamper with my birth control, so I became pregnant with my youngest. I do not regret having my youngest daughter, but after she was born, I secretly had my tubes tied. My mother constantly chastised me for being imperfect because I only had 2 children. That's not including how she chastised me for marrying an elderly woman. I got married at 22. She got married at the age of 16. My husband was 49 when he died in a car accident recently. We shared 2 daughters, ages 14 and 16. He has also been having an affair with a girl since 2020. The girl was 24 when she died. They had twin boys earlier this year, who fortunately survived the crash. My daughters discovered the affair first, when their father took them to the hospital to meet the babies and instructed the girls to keep it a secret from me. They didn't, and my husband became abusive to both them and me. He died while we were in the process of divorcing. When my husband's affair was revealed, my mother blamed me. She claimed it was because I was a working woman, which did not please her husband, that I hadn't given him enough children, and that I wasn't attractive anymore. I'm not saying I'm particularly attractive, but I believe I look good for my age. I quote, V maintained a healthy weight and appear to be younger than my age. But according to my dear mother, I was not good enough for my husband, who preferred a girl who was closer in age to our daughters than to himself. She was also among those who were angry with me for refusing to accept my husband's affair. Children. Her latest obsession is trying to find husbands for my daughters. My main focus is on my eldest. This crazy plan began this week, when my eldest came out to us. I had an idea, and I'm pleased. She felt comfortable enough in this huge mess to tell me and her sister. My daughter also decided to inform my mother about it. My mother just ended the call and called me to complain about how confused and ill my daughter is. She is linked to me. Conversion camps and psychologists, they argue that homosexuality is a sickness. Wackos, in my opinion, political articles and so on. She even considered doing an exorcism. I told her to stop, or she'd have no contact with my in-laws. She paused for exactly 24 hours. The next thing I get is a Facebook message from a man in his mid-20s asking if it was true that I was planning to marry off my 16-year-old daughter. I informed them that he was sick and blocked him. I got 6 more during the night. Then my mother called, saying she had found husband prospects for my daughters. To say my high school-aged girls were angry would be an understatement. She even gave some of these men my daughter's cell phone number. We'll all get new phone numbers tomorrow. And I had the girls set their social media to private. I am not sure what part of my mother's brain is broken. I had the girls block their grandmother and everything, and I'm stopping payments for anything my mother requires. I know I should call the cops. I never imagined I'd need to call the cops on my own mother. It's only been 2 weeks since I had to cut off my in-laws. I am just exhausted, and please don't think this is a typical Hispanic thing. It is not. My aunts are incredible women. The majority of them are also homemakers. They actually support my decision to cut off my mother and call the cops. They even suggested that my daughters and I move closer to them in another state. This is just my mother acting insane. A small update. We went to the police today and they took all of the information I had. The officer we spoke with was fantastic and immediately assisted my lawyer with everything needed for a temporary restraining order. We will file it this week and hope to receive it within a month. We will focus on obtaining a permanent restraining order. This is for my mother and any third parties acting on her behalf. The officer was also kind enough to offer to check on us at home at least once a day. School has also been notified of the situation, and one of my brothers will come live with my daughters and me until we decide whether, where, and when to relocate. I can't just pack everything because I still have a job and my daughters are in the middle of the school year. For the time being, we are safe, and my girls have new phone numbers. So, after hearing this story, one of the positives I take away is that they don't appear to have a pattern of physical confrontations. It appears that the majority of the crazy wacko things they're doing are done via Facebook or over the phone, such as giving out cell phone numbers and drawing social media. At the very least, it's not one of those stories about the crazy mother or mother-in-law who keeps showing up unannounced, and to whom you, for some reason, gave a key because you felt compelled to offer them some support. Still thinking about their behavior. I completely understand getting a restraining order to protect your children. Where had the adults commented? She gave them your daughter's number. Call the police. Get them a new number. I'd seriously consider taking up the aunt's offer. She just endangered your entire family because she has to be in charge. She's already shaped your life. Heck. She is now focusing solely on your children as the mother of their time. Our next story is, my father has a problem with me wearing sweatpants and a skin-tight t-shirt to university. I'm a 17-year-old female. I turn 18 in about a month and a half. Today, I left for university wearing a red t-shirt that was slightly too tight on my body. It wasn't cropped, didn't reveal my shoulders, and fully covered my body. And it was paired with gray sweatpants that irritated my father so much that he waited 30 minutes in the front yard for me to return home to say vile things to me, all while I was late for work. He yelled and screamed at me about how I shouldn't wear sweatpants to university because the back seams shift to the side and don't look good. That just didn't make sense to me. Please let me know if I am missing anything. Then he instructed me to never wear sweatpants or jeans to university. He went on about how I have a tiny body right now and can't wait to wear that crab until I get a bigger body again. That made no sense. Second, I think that is a pretty disgusting way to talk to a girl. It does not matter if it is your daughter. My mother was even more upset when she discovered a tube of foundation and a small bottle of perfume in my backpack. Yeah, I wore some makeup, but who doesn't? Besides, I am not trying to make any boys happy. I rarely talk to anyone. Furthermore, what did he mean by saying I had a small body? A small body appears to imply that tight-fitting clothing would not be an issue, correct? Plus, if he says sweatpants are too casual, why are they against me making an effort with my appearance? Why does he contradict himself? I really need to learn how to confront them. These 4 years at university are going to be hell for me, given that I never wanted to come here in the first place. However, they made me stay back so they could keep an eye on me. My abuser attends the same university, and I couldn't bring myself to tell them. Because why was I involved with the boy in the first place? I don't want to waste these years following their stupid rules. This is my current wardrobe. It quote, "I'll be my friends next." I am pretty sure they will not allow me to attend any parties or events. I was getting into other universities and CEOs, and I listened to them because that's what they wanted, but I don't intend to do so for the next 4 years. Could you all tell me how I can get them to relax and give me more control over my wardrobe? At least now that I'm almost 18, they'll respond with the classic, "We put you there to study, not to play dress up, and don't come crying to us if you don't get a job." Honestly, hearing this story makes me wish there was a magic bullet. That perfect phrase or thing you could say to them that makes them realize, oh yeah, you are your own self-sufficient person who deserves to wear whatever you want, dot. As long as you know you won't be kicked out of school or reprimanded in school, you won't be arrested, which a tight-fitting shirt and sweatpants will never do unless your teacher has a dress for success and nonsense policy. I think Opie's going to be fine. I mean, their reaction to discovering a tube of foundation and perfume, oh. I mean, for most people who wear makeup, isn't foundation something you probably started using before you were almost 18? BDSM time throwaway was commented on. You are going to school. Not interviewing every day in sweatpants is almost a college uniform. Just make sure you understand when dressing nicely is appropriate. Presentations, staff meetings, and actual interviews will help you fit in. Wear clean clothes and maintain good personal hygiene. Your parents are ridiculous, but I believe you already know this. To be honest, people who have come this far rarely change. It appears that you are financially dependent on them, so you cannot really rock the boat too much. I'd concentrate on getting to the point where you can transfer to another school and gain more independence. This other school offers a better XYZ program for majors than mine. I quote, finishing up the basics here before transferring. If you need an excuse, keep your head down until you're finished with school and ready to get out of Dodge. Opie responded, I'm not allowed to talk back or question him because he will yell and throw things around. So I simply listen to him patiently. But it has been hours, and I am still thinking about his reasoning. Why would he say anything about that man? I thought I looked terrific. I've been going to the gym for a while, and I've finally started feeling good about my clothes. But he says I can only wear button shirts and loose-fitting pants. So annoying. How bad is this next story? Female, 26. Last week, there was an army of ants crawling through my bathroom. My brother and I share the bathroom. I admit to seeing them, but I didn't do anything because I had a painful sinus infection. Eventually, I went to bed earlier. I awoke and went to the restroom. I detected the odor of pesticide. My brother sprayed pesticide everywhere without removing everything. My clothes were on the floor, and some of them were damaged. I was furious because of how recklessly he used the product. When I told my mother about it, she told me to bring the clothes down. Then I researched pesticides and clothes, and learned that if the clothes are soaked in pesticide, they should not be washed. I told her, and she said I was overreacting. I was showing her an article on how to do it while she yelled at my brother to bring down the clothes. I began screaming for her to listen to me. My father told me to stop being dramatic. My mother called shortly after and informed me that she was considering placing me in a mental institution. She makes everything into a bipolar issue. I quote, "V been professionally diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and she's used it against me whenever possible." My father told me that I am such a coward that I will never be able to survive in the real world, and that my sole purpose in life is to sell my body. I eventually screamed at my mother to call 911 and get me admitted because I wanted to get away from him. He came at me. I spotted him. My mother was trying to intervene. I ran barefoot down the street to the store as my father called me in. My mother and brother eventually found me. When I arrived home, my entire room was strewn with my clean clothes, all over the floor. I told my parents about this, and all they did was make him apologize to me. My mother drank a whole bottle of wine. She is an alcoholic. She relapsed this year and called her friends, so she was considering kicking me out for the remainder of the day. The following day was worse. I was in the kitchen when my father asked what I was going to do with the pesticide-soaked clothes and trash bag. I told them I was going to throw it away, but I was unsure how to do so safely. I wasn't sure what to do with the ones I did wash, so they were hanging in the laundry room. He told me he didn't want them there because he spent a lot of money to have them professionally cleaned. I lost hundreds of dollars worth of clothing. I am on SSI. I'm not sure how to replace them because they are charging me rent. Following that, I don't have much money left. They could care less. Not to mention that a few months ago, he choked me and I ended up in the emergency room. Aside from a minor sprain in my throat, I haven't sustained much damage. I lied to the paramedics, police, and medical staff because I was terrified. If I told someone, he could kill me. My father even warned me that if I told anyone, he would stop me. I can't stop crying because I can't get over the way he talks to me. He treated me like I was the scum of the earth, not his child. Every day I'm scared he'll kill me, even though he says he won't. None of my family members care about me and would probably defend him. I'm not sure how to get out of this. It certainly appears to be a nightmare scenario. It certainly appears that you must begin, just as you would when looking for services on which you can rely, Mark 12 commented. Definitely contact Adult Protective Services or the police. See if you can stay with a friend or at your workplace for safety. Also, gather your important documents, such as your social security card, birth certificate, and passport, and open a new bank account and transfer your money there. Anything to reduce any leverage they have over you. Our next story is that my girlfriend's 22-year-old female parents will not let her live with me. 21-year-old male. Basically, as the title suggests. But there's more backstory. My girlfriend and I want to move out in a few months, but we're worried about her parents' reactions. We've been together for about a year, but her parents are unaware that we're dating for religious reasons. Her mother has been on and off about her moving out, saying it's fine and then saying it's not okay until she gets married. We aren't sure how to tell her she's moving out, regarding the reaction she will give. Best case scenario, her mother says she won't speak to her anymore. Worst case scenario, she physically prevents her from moving out. I suppose her question is, has anyone had experience moving out when the parent refuses to allow it? And how did you go about packing and leaving with your belongings while avoiding your parents? If I were in this situation, I would try to do it as discreetly as possible, beginning with the most important aspects, so similar to what was mentioned just a minute ago. Birth certificate and social security card. Showing up if possible, stating that you have these documents, and then possibly packing things discreetly so that when the day arrives, you can quickly grab the majority of it all at once. Either that, or if you have to call the non-emergency line, you simply need assistance getting your belongings out, as if you're worried about them physically preventing you from leaving. Miyuki suggested that you pre-pack the majority of your supplies before attempting to get started. Nobody can stop your girlfriend if she wants to leave. She is an adult, and her parents have no legal right to prevent her from leaving their home. I'm going to assume her parents can get physical with her. She should gather all of her important documents and belongings and leave the house as soon as possible. If her parents have access to her bank account, email, or other important accounts, she must disable their access when she leaves. If they are covering any of her expenses, she should stop allowing them to do so. This will help her reduce any leverage they may have. She should not tell them she is moving until everything is in order. And if things go wrong, she can simply walk away. Ideally, she should move her belongings while they are out of the house so that they cannot interfere. She should not bring anything with her that they can claim is theirs, in case they try to claim she stole from them. If she has a job and people know where she works, she should speak with her boss to ensure her safety at work. She should check everything she brings with her to ensure there are no tracking devices. If she is sharing her location via phone, she should stop. Don't give them the new address so they can't show up and cause problems if they get physical with her. Call the police. This is just the start. Google, how to leave an unsafe home environment. One more thing. If they have a history of controlling or abusing her, she should keep detailed records. She should keep records and any proof she has. If she ends up in court, it will be useful. Our next story is entitled, Parents Want a Private Lift for Their Child. This occurred the night our building's fire alarm sounded, and we were all evacuated. Our building has over 20 floors and only 2 lifts. For the sake of this story, I'll refer to the entitled parent as EP, as well as myself, me. After we were given the all clear to return inside, everyone began to fall back into the building and line up at the lifts. Suddenly, we hear a woman say, "Do you mind if we go first?" We have a baby. I don't think that's a good excuse, especially since there are so many people with stressed out animals waiting to get back inside with everyone else. Nonetheless, we allow entitled Baron to proceed to the front, and the lift arrives. This is where the entitlement kicks in. Entitled parent prevents us from scanning our fab and asks, "Do you mind?" I say what they say. Can you stay here while we take the lift and send it back down to you? Mind you, the lift can accommodate about 10 people, including 2 adults holding a baby. I asked, why can't we go in as well? She replied, because we have a baby. I replied, so she says it'll be quicker if you stay here while we go up and send the lift back down to you. I ended up grabbing my roommate and saying, freak that, get in here, lady. There is a whole building waiting for these lifts. No comma, you cannot take the lift up alone. The extra 2 stops on their journey would have added about 30 minutes to their overall trip. I should also point out that the baby was not fussing, crying, or distressed. Dude was just chilling and watching everyone. Yeah, this lady is ridiculous. And not only was she being ridiculous, but she spent more time complaining and trying to persuade OP not to take the elevator than they would have if they had just taken it. TCO Gear commented. I'll add one comment to this post to hopefully assist someone if the fire alarm at work goes off. Take the car keys. Not me, but my boss could not return until the following day and could not get into his car to drive home. Take your keys. Ha ha ha, the answer is no. Commentator, this is what I did at work. Person keys. Granted, the keys were in the purse, but I'm not going to get screwed without a reason. The same thing happens when the fire alarm goes off in our apartment. I purposely have my purse on the back knob of my bedroom door. I can't live without my medications and can easily refill them with the excuse that they were burned in a fire. Go into that purse at night when I go to bed, and my house and car keys are hanging on the hook at the front door. That way I don't waste any time, but I'm not completely screwed. Later, if we end up not being able to get back in for a long time, or God forbid it actually burns down or something. Learn from experience. One night when I went off at 2 a.m. from some kid in the stairwell on the backside of our building, pulling the alarm outside their door for fun. No idea what an 8-year-old was even doing outside at 2 a.m. anyway. I had grabbed my purse and keys on the way out, so we could at least put the kids in the car and had a card and cash in case we need to get a room or food or something. But I didn't think to grab my meds as the hours wore on and we still couldn't go in. I started to have a huge panic and anxiety attack about what would happen if I wasn't able to get back in to get my meds when it was time. This next story is, I didn't congratulate my dad on his birthday. Plus, the guy I've been dating may not be the one. I thank you all for always giving me good advice with time, help, and therapy. I quote, come to terms with the fact that my parents will never change, no matter how logical my argument sounds, and there's really not much I can do. That's after cutting contact, which obviously hurt because it's family. My brother got in contact with me to talk. I was hesitant but accepted it when exactly how I thought it would. And I have to be honest, I never reached out to them siblings after a couple of rejected attempts. And I won't change. Nor will I sacrifice nothing anymore just to fit into their picture. My brother asked me if I was still Muslim, and that if I thought that sleeping in the beach house of the guy I'm dating, friends and his family were there, and everyone slept in separate rooms is normal. I really debated whether I should go or not, but I'd been so sad and depressed. He convinced me, and we had a good time. I told them that if my parents would at least try to get to know the person that I want to be with without mattering if it's a convert, we would be able to talk and I update them on my life. And he said, but why should they? And that we all have to make sacrifices. And I did for a long freaking time. My dad gave me options, but options that I did not agree on because I felt like it was still manipulation and that I wouldn't be content with the outcome. I am no saint, I admit that, because that's the argument they use against me, that I lied all the time. And yes, I lied so that I could go out and be with friends because I wasn't allowed. But they don't seem to understand that it all started because of their crazy strict ways. I asked for permission just to be told no all of the time, and I felt like my life was flashing before my eyes. And whenever I would go out, we would as a family. But if I wanted to go out with friends, I wasn't allowed. And if I did more than once would be more than enough. Although I love them, the relationship with my family is very taxing and exhausting. I needed some distance, and with that, I forgot to congratulate my dad on his birthday, which has made me feel like complete crap. And I've come to realize maybe the guy I've been seeing is not the one. Another reason for them to use, and my sibling is leaving today, and I don't know whether to see him or not. As far as OPI, considering whether or not their partner is or isn't the one, That's really kind of more of an OPP thing to figure out. Just in general, when it comes to your family, the way they apparently have treated OPI just don't think it's crazy to go through a period where you aren't talking to them, really. So you kind of forget to congratulate them or talk to them or, put in the bare minimum effort of saying, hey, happy birthday. I think it's just indicative of the way your relationship really has become. Sundar Gamer commented, the guy you're seeing doesn't have to be the one. He's the one you're seeing right now. Does that make sense? Your family by blood doesn't get to control you as an adult. They need to understand that the more they push you, the further they're pushing you away from them. I guess you're probably feeling alone and a little lost now that you're finally free from your parents and their strict guidance. But you have so much more freedom to explore now. You, quote, re-allowed to make mistakes. That's part of learning. Go forth and enjoy your new life. But with that said, that is all the time we have today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right.